All right. Gotta let it breathe while we get the Facebook groups in here. One and two. Gotta wait for a couple green check marks. Waiting and waiting and spinning and spinning. All right. There's one. There's two. All right. We're good to go. Welcome into another episode of the Dev Valley Deep Divers. I am your host, Erick Trickel. Joining me, as always, on these wonderful Friday nights is the one and only Lance Sanderson. Lance, Denver started off with the win. Feels like it's been forever since Denver started off with a win. How you doing? And quickly, what are your thoughts from that first game?
Well, it has been forever since the Broncos started off with a win. I think it's like 6 years in a row or something like that they have not started off 1-0. And fortunately, they got to be able to do that at home. So winning all of your home games is always a big paramount for playoff teams. You want to go 8-0 on at home, and then split on the road 4-4, 4-3, whatever it's going to be. So doing good. It wasn't exactly the way that I had envisioned it. I couldn't have possibly been more wrong. Actually, I could have been. And the only way that I would have been more wrong in my prediction was if the Broncos actually lost. I predicted a big blowout against the Tennessee Titans last week, and that didn't work out in my favor. But Denver's 1-0. A lot of good things to take away, especially defensively. Offensively, they need to work on some things, especially timing and play calling, getting the play calls in on time. And also, Bo Nix just needs to play better. But I'm doing good. We're here to break down the Indianapolis Colts game and get everybody ready here for week 2. Eric, my bad, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited with the win. I got to obviously talk about it Monday morning, where we definitely talked on Bo Nix's struggles, the 3 turnovers that he had, and the one that Marvin Mims on the muffed punt. Mm-hmm. And, I do got to admit, the instant reactions of me especially, were a little bit on the sour side of Luke Wattenberg and Ben Powers. Now, Luke Wattenberg was terrible. He was the worst offensive lineman. But when I went back and watched it Monday for my grading system and when I was putting together my film piece on J.K. Dobbins, I was actually surprised. Ben Powers was actually the best of the 3 interior offensive linemen.
Yes, he was.
Obviously, there was a couple boneheaded mistakes, but he was a little bit more consistent than the rest. So that was a little bit surprising. And one of the reasons why, that the live watch, why it's always worth to go back and watch it again, because you see things differently. It's not in the heat of the moment. And, you being able to go back and rewind the play and watch it again and again and again and check and see if you're missing something or not. It's always worth doing. And it's something that I've, even before I was breaking down games and stuff like that for a job, I was still always watching the games back for that reason. So it's interesting. And, got to break down the Colts game. And I'm excited for this matchup for a few different reasons. And we're definitely going to get into that. But before we do, got to say hello to some people in the chat. We have William Catalano coming in saying that he has the Broncos winning 21-19, getting another squeaker. Cody coming in saying, let's Bo Broncos country. At first, I almost heard that boo, and then I realized what you were going with. Jordan Lewis, one of the members on YouTube, coming over with it. Bo Leave and Pro 16K, another member on YouTube with a 27-16 Broncos. Go Bo. And, we have Greenlaw and Ingram. Greenlaw is out for this game. Ingram doesn't have a designation, so he is expected to play. The only other player for the Broncos that's out is Nate Atkins, which was expected, and we'll get more into the injury report here in just a few minutes. Michael Ronquillo coming in with the month notification for being a member here on YouTube. Appreciate you, Michael. And then also coming with a $5 super chat saying, good evening, Eric and Lance on Death Valley Deep Divers, Go Bo Broncos. And one of the great things, Michael, with you joining in and all this, it's not just the super chats. It's not just you being a member. It's the amount of memberships that you've donated over the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, yes. It seems like almost every single show that I do, you're donating another 5 memberships to it, and we just can't tell you how much that appreciates us, enables us to keep the lights on and going. Chase Woolner saying Alex Singleton is one tough dude. Yeah, he is. I don't know if you saw this, but he broke his thumb, the same thumb he broke a month ago, just in a different spot. He's getting it and had surgery on it. He's getting it casted up and he's going to be playing with that. We have Roy Osborne saying, hey there, guys, I'm still with 17-9 win. And Rodney Garcia saying, what up, Eric and Lance, go Broncos. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. We have a fun conversation talking, and we're going to get into the matchups. We're going to get into bold predictions, and we're going to cover whether or not the Indianapolis Colts may or may not be an underdog for this one.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. As it currently stands, the Broncos are a 1.5-point favorite in this game, but underdog, guys, football is back, and underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and many more.
Yeah, that's right. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. So if you think you've got a beat on what Bo Nix, R.J. Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, Cortland Sutton, or any other Broncos player are going to do in Week 2, download Underdog and win yourself some money.
Yeah, guys, everybody's having so much fun playing Underdog right now and winning money while watching football. That's a touchdown, guys. Download the app today. Sign up with the promo code MHuddle to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. Again, guys, that's promo code MHuddle. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Can you be next? Underdog. Make picks, win money.
18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
And thank you, Underdog, for the sponsorship. We appreciate that. But we're here to talk about the Indianapolis Colts and this game. And obviously, matchups. I think there are a lot of good matchups for the Broncos. But before we do that and get into individual player matchups, there is one thing that is definitely worth noting. The Denver Broncos did not have the best passing defense in Week 1 when it comes to EPA per dropback. The best passing defense in the Week 1 was the Indianapolis Colts in dropback per EPA. However, if you eliminate the takeaways, Denver then becomes number 1, and the Indianapolis Colts drop down to 3rd. And so they definitely got that boost from playing a rough Tua Tagovailoa and a rough Miami Dolphins offense, getting those takeaways, and that helped them out. I think that was – I don't think it was so – I do think there's a lot of talent in the secondary and for the coverage unit of the Colts. I don't think they're that good. I think that they're going to be more middle of the pack by season's end, and I think that they were just definitely boosted by the quality of the Dolphins offense. Whereas the Broncos, I think that they will be somewhere in the top 5, top 10 at the very least by season's end when it comes to dropback per EPA. Just one of those fun things. And on that note, too, it's worth remembering last year after Week 1, the best offense in the NFL was the New Orleans Saints. So, team matchups, Colts, they have a pretty good passing defense, whereas the Titans last week, well, coming in, they didn't have a great one, and they just ended up having a really good game. Part of that was Bo Nix. Part of that was so many other issues. But the Colts are the worst rushing defense in rush and per rush or EPA per rush, or second worst depending on what group you're looking at. So this is a game that I would be looking at before we get into the injury report, which we'll do next. This is a game where I really would be looking for the Broncos to run the ball.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Like I went back and I didn't get a chance to break down the all 22. Unfortunately, I got about the first quarter and a half. But when you watch what the Miami Dolphins did up front, they ran a lot of inside zone and a lot of duo, which is what the Broncos do very successfully on their offensive line. They do a great job in double teams. They open up a lot of space. It's just, can the running backs actually find the holes and hit those holes with explosiveness and get downfield? This Indianapolis Colts defense, headed by DeForest Buckner on the interior defensive line, got dominated up front by what is a worse offensive line than what the Broncos have. And I think that this is really the key to this game, quite honestly, is to run the football, control the clock, keep the ball out of Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts offense. Don't make stupid mistakes, which is what the Miami Dolphins did a lot on this last Sunday. So honestly, this really is, if Sean Payton is a man of his word and says he wants to run the football, we saw it on his play sheet last year. He's talked about it all offseason, talking about the new outside zone schemes that they want to incorporate. If he really wants to get this ground game going, this is the game to really do it in this first quarter of the season.
Yeah, that is 100% true. And, there's some injury report news that we're going to get into here, and one of them has an effect on that because the Colts are going to be missing somebody. He's out for this game. That might open up the door for a little bit more passing. But even with that, I still think that the Broncos should run the ball a little bit more. But as we get into that, first, for the Broncos, Evan Ingram dealing with the calf injury. Didn't feel right when he came back onto the field last week against the Titans. Was limited on Wednesday, full Thursday, full Friday. I know Nick and I on Wednesday were saying that we don't think that Ingram was going to play. But he really bounced back and, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning when we did the live show, it didn't sound like Ingram was going to play. It really sounded like they were going to sit him out. But sometimes you just wake up and you just feel better. You may tweak a hamstring, or you may pull something or step funny, and you just feel a little bit wrong for a while, and then you rest right, you get back, and it feels normal. That seems to be the case of Evan Ingram. He talked a little bit about that today. John Franklin Myers tweaked his knee, was on Wednesday, was a full during the game, didn't practice on Wednesday, full practice on Thursday and Friday. Alex Singleton with the thumb, full practice all week. All three of those guys, they'll be playing in this game. Nate Atkins wasn't expected to play. He's a guy that maybe next week, most likely week 4. They didn't put him on injury reserve because they do expect him back sometime in the first 4 weeks. Drain Greenlaw is the other one. I know a lot of people thought that they might get him back this game. It really sounds like they're just resting him, getting him back 100% with that lower body injury with that quad, so where he can be back for next week and the week after and so on for the rest of the season, when the quality of opponents do get much tougher than the Titans and the Colts. You are muted.
I am muted. I apologize for that. The big thing here is Alex Singleton still being able to play. Obviously, Evan Ingram against this Colts linebacking core, quite honestly, is really the big matchup. But Alex Singleton being able to come out and still play, still be able to start from what it sounds like against, we'll get into this matchup a little bit more, Tyler Warren, who had a tremendous first game as a rookie tight end. That matchup is going to be a big one to watch. You touched on Dre Greenlaw a little bit, and I think that your points are very poignant here. Holding him out and keeping him just on the sidelines, keeping him in bubble wrap a little bit, while you get through these first couple weeks of the season, is much more important than playing him now, risking firing up that quad injury even more and losing him for 5, 6, 7 weeks throughout the middle of the season when you really desperately need him against teams like the Chargers. You've got Philadelphia. You've got the Cincinnati Bengals in the next 3 weeks after this game. So with Greenlaw, I think holding him out is smart, and I think that the Broncos are doing a good job here. And thankfully, Alex Singleton can play, because if he didn't, then maybe Dre Greenlaw did need to play.
Yeah, and one thing is Justin Chenard, he played brilliantly against the Titans to help fill in for Dre Greenlaw. Mm-hmm. And we do know that Lavelle Bailey isn't going to get called up this week. They've already came out, and that's already been reported. They're not going to call him up this week. They're going to roll with Justin Chenard and Karine Reed as those backups there for that. So that is a little bit interesting. I'm curious if the Broncos are going to be – I'm curious if the Broncos will start using Talanoa Hufanga a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage a little bit. And you'd mentioned Tyler Warren, Talanoa Hufanga. Connect the dots there. We'll get into that here in just a few minutes after we wrap up with this, because that is definitely the first matchup I want to get into. But as for the Colts, they have a lot of players on the injury report. Only 4 of them have a status for the game. Jalen Jones, he's been dealing with a hamstring injury, still dealing with it. From talking with some Colts people and reading what some Colts people are saying, they're expecting him back either next week or the week after. They weren't expecting him back for this week. And then Charvarius Ward is in the concussion protocol and is out for this game. He is their number 2 boundary corner, their number 3 corner overall, stuck between Xavier Howard and Kenny Moore. Jalen Jones was their number 4 corner. So you're missing 2 of your top 4 corners. Mekhi Blackman or Donovan Edwards are the guys stepping in for it. That can create an opening for Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton. But man, some of the rest on that Colts defense, Nick Cross, Kenny Moore, of course, Cameron Bynum, they are very punishing. Especially with how they play that defense. Xavier Howard, people forget that just a few years ago, he was a top 8 corner in the NFL, and he had an outstanding start to the season. I believe he was targeted twice and allowed a single catch, and he was on Jalen Waddle for the majority of the game. Yep. So he's definitely had it. There's still some concerns over the Colts secondary, even with Charvarius Ward out, but it does give you somebody that you could potentially target to get it going. Still a game, though, as I said, that you look at getting the run game going, because it's so important you get it going now and you get the kinks ironed out before you get on to the Chargers and the Bengals and the Eagles and the really tough parts of the schedule over the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you've got Charvarius Ward, you've got the other cornerback, Jalen Jones. Sorry, I completely drew a blank here. This actually kind of opens up some opportunity for Bo Nix in the passing game, because Mekhi Blackman is an all right player. Xavier Howard is really the big one to watch out for, and I think that they're going to kind of have to shadow Cortland Sutton for the most part to take that away. But when you got players that have elite speed, elite ability over the middle of the field, running away from defenders, and guys like Troy Franklin, guys like Marvin Mims, this is a way you can open up the middle of the field for Bo Nix to make it a little bit easier. The bigger question I have here, though, and this is another thing we're going to get into, is Lou Anarumo is the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. And if you remember correctly, he was the defensive coordinator against this for the Cincinnati Bengals last season. Bo had a couple of great plays late in the game, but for the most part, Lou Anarumo put Bo Nix in a blender in terms of what he does with his coverage, because he gets really exotic. He does some Tampa 2, some drop back at the linebacker, runs a lot of cover 3, but he does a great job in his disguises, and it made it very difficult for Bo Nix last season. So let's see how it works out with the Colts being down 2 of their top 3 cornerbacks. Denver might have an opportunity to take advantage of that, but it all depends on what Lou Anarumo does with his defense with lower level players on his roster.
Yeah, and before we get into the coverage of Tyler Warren here, just a couple comments here. Stella saying, I'm curious who they put to cover on Warren. We're about to get to that in here in just a second. BK saying, pick your poison, JT or Warren. Can't stop both with Huff or Singleton. I disagree, because it's not just Huff and Singleton, and that's something that we will also get into here in a moment. And Rodney Garcia saying, PS2 versus Warren, like he did against Bowers. I disagree. Part of the reason why you needed to do that against Bowers last year is because you didn't have a guy like Talanoa Hufanga. Now you do. Talanoa Hufanga is good enough in coverage, good enough playing man when needed, good enough in zone. And with what Vance Joseph does defensively, they were balanced last week. I don't know if you know this. They played 30% in 3 different coverages. Like not exactly 30%. All 100 was between 3. They were very balanced with what they're doing with their coverage system. And this is a game where you can kind of keep that going and just use Hufanga to kind of eliminate Bowers. That enables you, going back to, you can't stop both Warren and Jonathan Taylor with Hufanga and Singleton. That enables you to really focus on Brandon Jones playing that over-the-top cover. Probably going to see a little bit more cover 3, cover 1 type defenses or type looks from this, with Jones playing that deep safety. But it enables Justin Strnad and Alex Singleton to key in on Jonathan Taylor a little bit more and have them focus on that and taking him out of the game, where you trust your secondary to eliminate the wide receivers. You put Patrick Chan on Michael Pittman Jr. You trust Riley Moss on Alec Pierce and Jaquan McMillan against Josh Downs. Is that their slot receiver?
Yep.
Because Adonai Mitchell is their 4th receiver who comes in and rotates in. So I think that Talanoa Hufanga, that's the guy you got to look at to take out Tyler Warren in this one. And guess what? That's part of the reason why they brought him in. Part of the reason why they brought Hufanga in was because at the time they had to deal with Brock Bowers and Travis Kelce.
Yep.
Well, that's where their focus was. That's why they brought him in. They brought him in to help eliminate tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to, I think it's 2023, Talanoa Hufanga in coverage against tight ends was the 6th rated safety in the NFL. This dude can play in coverage. Everyone wants to call him a box safety, where he's a guy that's just attacking the line of scrimmage. He showed last week that he is much more than that, because, again, like you talked about, Vance Joseph did a very good job rotating. It was cover 1, 2-man, and cover 3. And they did a great job rotating both Brandon Jones and Talanoa Hufanga down into the box to be extra support in the run game and also extra support in the pass game over the middle of the field. Talanoa Hufanga is very capable of lining up with a guy like Tyler Warren and playing with physicality. That's the very first thing you notice when you go back and you watch the tape last week, is Talanoa Hufanga was, without question, the most physical defender that the Broncos had, especially at the second level. He crashed down in the running game in an immense way. He did great in coverage over the middle against wide receivers as well. There was a great snap that he had against Elikayo Maynor, I believe is who it was, going over the middle of the field. Like, this dude knows how to play football. And when you got a guy like that, he's a versatile defensive chess piece. Add in Jahdae Barron. What is he capable of doing? Is that a size mismatch for Tyler Warren against Jahdae Barron? For sure, absolutely. But the feistiness, the physicality that he brings with at that nickel cornerback position is something that you can work with. You can work with Hufanga. You can, maybe, if you wanted to, slide Surtain down and cover Tyler Warren over the middle of the field. This defense is so multiple in what they do with their back end of the secondary that it makes it the matchup nightmare that you have with a guy like Tyler Warren kind of erases it, because you have an answer for pretty much everything they want to do with Tyler Warren. So I'm not saying that they're going to erase him, because Tyler Warren's a one hell of a football player. He's going to get his. He's going to get 5 or 6 catches, but I don't think it's going to be like what they were able to do against Miami last week, where he was open all over the place and Daniel Jones just didn't hit him. Like, there was multiple different times where Tyler Warren was wide open over the middle of the field because Miami's defense is just terrible. This Denver defense is way better than that, and it's going to make Daniel Jones and this Colts offense look way, way, way worse than they were last week.
Yeah, we have String Guy coming in, one of the members on YouTube. We appreciate you, String Guy, for that. It says, hi, I'm all for getting the run game going. But with all the injuries in the Colts secondary, don't you think Peyton will turn Nix loose in the pass game? It's only one. It's only Ward. That's the only injury to it. And you still have Nick Cross, Cameron Bynum, Xavier Howard, and Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore is one of the best nickel safety hybrid players in the NFL. Nick Cross is a very underrated safety. Cameron Bynum was a guy that Denver was actually looking at signing before he got priced out of them, and they actually pivoted to Talanoa Hufanga. And then Xavier Howard is a good corner. I mean, he had some down years there in Miami didn't play last year because of some injury stuff and the way things were going in Miami. And he just kind of gave up on them, but he came back with a big week. That is still a tough secondary, even with Ward out. This is the worst rushing defense in the NFL so far. Look at exploited. The Miami Dolphins couldn't exploit them a whole lot, even though they had great success running the ball against them, just because the game got out of hand for them. So it was a game that you definitely still look at getting the run game going. And adding to that is you look at what the Broncos passing offense said last week. Do you really want to turn Bo Nix loose? I'm not saying you just completely pull the rug out from underneath him and don't trust him at all, but it's definitely a thing of lean on your run game a little bit more and have Nick settle down, because he looked really anxious and in the pocket and just like trying to force things, making bad reads, making bad decisions. And there was a report out there. Somebody on Twitter mentioned this, that on the first drive alone, Denver looked to be lining up for about like 5 or 6 run plays or 4 run plays or something like that. And Nick's audibled out of them. So maybe you kind of pull that, rein them in a little bit is what I'm getting at. And one of the ways you do that is by running the ball a little bit more. You still use the passing game, but you go old school style of run to set up the pass instead of more modern style of pass to set up the run.
Well, and to me, it starts at the top. Bo Nix can only do so much on the field. It starts with your play caller. It starts with your head coach. It starts with Sean Payton. Because Sean Payton was atrocious in his game plan. They did not focus on the run. He talked about the RPOs. And you go back and watch, I didn't see a whole lot of RPOs. I did see some run formations where then Bo Nix did check out of those, and then they started to throw the football. But when you go back and watch the broadcast angle of the broadcast tape, Sean Payton was literally shaking. He's holding his play card and shaking. It was like he was so juiced up and so amped up that he didn't really stick to the script that he had. I don't know what was going through his mind, but I can tell you what it looked like with his body language, and it wasn't pretty. And that just up at the top, that jittery sense of nervousness, that unsureness of what you are as a play caller in this situation, whether it's just being hyped up or not sure what is actually going to happen with your offense, struggled throughout the preseason. For every report that we saw, we even watched it in preseason games. That right there, slowing things down, getting your heart rate down. Stop changing personnel so much. Stop putting your quarterback at the line of scrimmage with 8 seconds left. Like, get the play call in. That right there alone should help this Broncos offense, and I think that that's the big thing. Run the ball, make your play calls short and quick, stop changing your personnel all the damn time, help your quarterback out, and guess what? You're going to start seeing this offense start to take off, especially against this Colts defense, because they were not good despite all the takeaways that they had against Miami. Miami forced themselves into 3 unforced errors in the first half, and then also had another. So Daniel Jones, the big statistic was Daniel Jones led scoring drives on 7 straight drives. It's the first time it's happened since like the mid '90s, and it's like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, none of those guys have ever done it. They got a punt. Miami got a punt, and on their 3rd drive, and had a running into the kicker penalty on that punting play, which then gave the Colts another first down, and then they drove down the field to score. I think they kicked the field goal on that drive. That alone, just the unforced errors, that allowing yourself to settle into the game is going to make this game a lot easier for the Broncos.
Yeah. And Shrink, they're not going against a second string defense. There's one starter that's out for this game in Ward. And actually, I talked about earlier about how with Ward in, the Colts technically had the best defense in terms of EPA per dropback. And if you take Ward out of it, they actually get better. Obviously, it's not including a replacement for him. We don't know what Mekhi Blackman's going to do. We don't know or Donovan Edwards. We're not sure which one's going to step it in. Mekhi Blackman was added about a month ago, 2-3 weeks ago, actually more so, end of August. So we're not sure who's going to step in. We're not going to sure what that's going to be. And so when you do pass, that will be where Bo Nix should be looking, where Sean Payton is dialing his calls. But the rest of the secondary is still extremely weak, and this is a defense that, even with their starters in it, it was a bad run defense last week. Yeah. You take advantage of that, especially for a team that is wanting and needing to get the run game going.
Yeah.
And all that with that. So it's definitely a thing. And then I saw somebody mention about the Colts offensive line. One thing where, on that note, the area where you have the most success with creating mistakes for Daniel Jones, pressure up the middle.
Yep.
The Colts offensive line looks legit. Like I said this, I believe I said this on Monday or Wednesday. I can't remember which. I've talked about this in our group chat. This Colts offensive line looks legit. But the question that you walk away with is, are they actually that good, or are the Miami Dolphins defensive front that bad? And not necessarily like talent-wise, because they do have talent on there. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Zeiler, like they do have talent. Chop Robinson added to it. But they are so badly coached, and the play calling was so bad, it's not playing to their strengths. There was a few times where they're having basically Chop Robinson trying to play inside on obvious rundowns. Like there was a lot of issues with the way they're coached and a lot of the play calling. So the question is are the Colts actually legit, or were they boosted by the fact that the Miami Dolphins defense is that bad? Wouldn't surprise me by the end of the season if this is the worst defense in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins. Denver's defense is vastly different. This is going to be a real good litmus test for this Colts offensive line and the Colts defense. But the Broncos, they really need more from their interior. I know Zach Allen got 6 pressures. John Frankenmeyer's got 1, but they still need more out of those guys. Allen's pressures were pretty consistently, the second or third pressure. You need to get him a little bit more. You need to force Daniel Jones to be uncomfortable on the interior pressure. That's how you force mistakes.
Well, and to go to your point of is the Colts offensive line as good as they are, or was the Miami Dolphins defense that bad? I got a statistic for you, especially in the pass rush here. The Miami Dolphins led the NFL last week in blitz percentage. 48.5% of those plays defensively, they ran at least a 5-man pressure. They blitzed 5 or 6-man pressure. Their quarterback pressure rate was 4th worst at 24.2%. They sent several different exotic blitzes at the Indianapolis Colts, and they did not get hardly any pressure on Daniel Jones. And when they did, Daniel Jones looked terrible. He was unsure of himself in the pocket. His footwork got terrible. His accuracy dropped off. But that Colts offensive line did well against a team that could not create pressure even when they sent 6 men. That's how bad that Miami defense was last week. It's not how good the Colts offensive line was. It's how bad that defensive line and the second-level players in the blitz packages that Miami had last week. Denver's going to bring a lot of blitzes. So let me pull this back up. Let me just continue to filibuster for a second here. Denver brought blitzes on 29.4% of their pass rush snaps last week. That's a low percentage.
Like a 60% pressure rate.
And a 60% pressure rate. They led the NFL with 6 sacks last week. And they had, Nick Bonito had 9 pressures on
50,
20.
Sorry.
So nine pressures from Nick Bonito on 22 pass rush snaps. That's a 48% pass rush win rate from one guy. You get 6 sacks against, it's a rookie quarterback and an offensive line in Tennessee that was retooled and rebuilt with multiple free agent additions and a new right tackle that they drafted last season. Denver's defense is a whole different animal. And I don't think this Colts offensive line is going to be able to stand up to the pressure that what the Broncos are going to do. And Miami's secondary is booty cheeks, guys. It's horrible. It's not the Broncos secondary. And the quick game of what Daniel Jones was able to do early in the game to help him get settled in, the fact that he was able to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball down the field when he needed to, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. I actually fear for Daniel Jones a little bit here and the regression, this whole Daniel Jones resurgent season. He looks like that next recovery quarterback that's going to make a whole bunch. No, wait until this defense gets his teeth into him, and it's going to be terrible.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on it a little bit. Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, they're great players. Great players still get theirs, right? It happens. You can limit them. You don't really truly shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Jonathan Taylor, he's going to get his. How much can Denver limit him? I think they have the right pieces in play to limit him, both him and Hufanga, and Warren. And Hufanga is a big piece in that. One thing is they really changed how they're playing defense and working downhill because of Hufanga.
Yep.
So one thing, if I'm the Colts, and this is something for I'm saying this because it's something for the Broncos defense to really be ready for. If I'm the Colts, I'm throwing a lot of play action against them. Mm-hmm. I am trying to get Hufanga off the spot, reacting to the run, and then passing off of that, and creating a quicker passing game off of it. RPOs, things like that. Mm-hmm. Something to try to pull in Singleton, pull in Cernod, pull down Hufanga, and then get something going off of that. That is something that is where I think that the Colts could have success if the Broncos aren't ready for it. Mm-hmm. And then Jonathan Taylor, because of him being a threat, that's what plays into that. So you got to watch out for that. But we're going to flip sides here. We're going to be talking about this Colts defense a little bit more and going over it and going over just one matchup over it. But overall, we've talked about this. One injury in the secondary, 10 of 11 starters. Great secondary outside of that one question mark here of a guy we're not sure who it's going to be. Most likely Mekhi Blackman, I would bet. But this run defense was so bad. And they have guys who are absolutely awful, wanted to say language that I can't use live, against the run, and Kwity Paye, and then Samson Ebukam, who comes in and rotates with Kwity Paye. Now, Ebukam had a great game as a pass rusher. He led the Colts with four pressures and a sack, and he plays off Mike McGlinchey, who is a good run defender. So anytime, if I'm the Broncos and I see Ebukam come into the game, I'm adjusting that play to running right at him. DeForest Buckner, great player still, definitely on the downhill decline of his career. Not as good against the run, still can be a threat. But Ben Powers and Quinn Miners, they shut him down last year. Grover Stewart. Luke Wattenberg actually had a good game against Grover Stewart last year. Mm-hmm. And he is a good run defender. He is hard to displace, but Luke Wattenberg had a good game against it. So I'm looking at the game last year against a lot of similar guys they had up front for the Colts defense with the same offensive line, a lot of the same pieces up front. And that's part of the reason why, as well, of continuing to try to build up this run game, which came on hot against the Titans in the fourth quarter there, and be a little bit more balanced overall. You can't go into the second half with 26 passing plays called to 8 runs, I think is what it was. Yeah, they ended with 30 runs, but hey, you got to be a little bit more balanced to start the game about that and help keep your defense a little bit more rested. So my big key matchup here is Mike McGlinchey against Ebukam, especially as run defenders, and then going to the passing game. Ebukam is a type of pass rusher that McGlinchey has had issues with over the years. So can you handle that aspect of it too? It goes both ways a little bit. So that is one thing. And I am really looking forward to Sean Payton. He's talked about holding himself accountable and the issues with not calling the run games. Well, time to put your money where your mouth is. Run the game. Run the dang ball against this Colts defense, which is so bad against the run.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the opening of the show, you talked about Ben Powers. And when you watched the game live, it didn't look like he had a great game. He's probably one of the if not the worst offensive lineman. He was the second worst, only over Luke Wattenberg. And then you go back and watch the tape. Him as a pulling guard in the running game, that big RJ Harvey run, he blew up Jeffrey Simmons on a pull. And Jeffrey Simmons actually won that rep, to tell you the truth. He won off the snap and threw Mike McGlinchey downfield. Ben Powers came and blew him up in his face and then sealed him off. Garrett Bowles had the backside seal, created a great running lane. Then you see Quinn Miners and Cortland Sutton get to the second level, wall off a safety, wall off a linebacker. Here's the cutback lane. RJ Harvey makes the dude miss. He's gone for 50 yards. Ben Powers did a great job, and I really want to commend him in pass protection. The one play that really stuck out to me was as a negative was the Jeffrey Simmons strip sack that got Bo in the second quarter, where Powers goes one-on-one against Jeffrey Simmons. That's a battle you're destined to lose because Jeffrey Simmons is a top 3 interior defensive lineman. He's going to go up this week against DeForest Buckner, and Buckner is not nearly as, at least at this point in his career, based on what I've seen, he's not nearly as great of a pass rusher as a Jeffrey Simmons is. He's not doing great in the run game either. He looks like he's lost a lot of strength. Looks like he's playing kind of hurt, to tell you the truth. And Ben Powers, with the levers that he plays with as a run blocker, when they run duo, this Miami offensive line ran a lot of duo with Luke Wattenberg and Ben Powers. When they run duo against DeForest Buckner, watch for DeForest Buckner to get displaced off the ball like 3 yards. It's going to be tremendous to watch. It's really, really fun to watch. Their other interior defensive lineman, I forget his name. Give me just 1 second here.
Kwity Paye.
Kwity. So Grover Stewart against the no. Kwity Paye. That's an issue for Garrett Bowles in the pass protection game. I think Kwity Paye does well enough to play with leverage, but in the running game, run directly down his throat.
Kwity Paye plays against the right side. Leata Latu will play against left tackle.
Okay, well, I got it backwards. I swear that's not what I watched today. But regardless, if you get that matchup where Miners or where McGlinchey's against Kwity Paye, run directly in his face. Run directly in Samson Ebukham's face. Run directly at Leata Latu, to tell you the truth, because he wasn't good against the run either. Like, Denver needs to run. I almost said something bad. Denver needs to run the freaking football this week. Like, seriously, you need to take advantage of a Colts interior defensive line that is not playing high-quality football right now.
Yeah. And on that note, we had a comment here that I wanted to grab real quick. We have Sentinel Supreme saying, "Hi, gents. Good evening. Happy freaking fracking Friday. Is it true that 2 of the starting quarterbacks for Indy is out? Broncos win 23-10? No, only one of them is. Jalen Jones was a starter last year. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a starter coming into this year. He wasn't a starter before his injury happened. Ward is the lone starter that's out. Howard took over the other starting job. So only one of the two, and it's a complete unknown. But Jalen Jones was their primary backup on the boundary, and he is out. So you can't turn to a former starter for it for that. But yeah, there's a lot that you can do. And again, not saying don't pass the ball, not saying don't you don't want to pull the rug out from Bo Nix. You still want to pass the ball. You still got to move the ball. You still got to put points on the board. But this is a game, again, that you really want to go and work at getting those kinks ironed out in the run game against a bad run defense. So trust your run blockers. Reuse the passing game if things go bad. Use the passing game to make up for it. But focus on getting that run game going against one of the worst run defenses. But we have Camden coming in with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Camden. We appreciate that so much. He says, "What's up, Broncos country? If the Broncos D can stop Jonathan Taylor and get pressure on Daniel Jones, then the Broncos should 100% win this game. Hashtag let's go Broncos." Now, I did find this as an interesting fact. When facing Indianapolis in Indianapolis, the Broncos have only won one time since 2004. And that was a playoff. That was a 2023-2024 playoff game, by the way. That was the last time that they won in 2004. Or the second to last time. The other time they won in Indianapolis was in 2017. For some reason, Denver has issues in Indianapolis. And they've had a lot of issues against the Colts over the past, 10 years in general. So it's an interesting game, but I do think that it is a game that plays into the Broncos' strengths a lot. Again, with the defense being able to commit to the run game a little bit more. The injury to Ward, it's always unfortunate that injuries help create such a major advantage for you, but it does, and it's part of the game. It happens all the time. Dre Greenlaw being out, that can create an advantage for other teams with Justin Cernot and his issues in coverage and Alex Singleton's issues in coverage. It's how the game works. Denver just has a guy who can help cover for that in Talanoa Hufanga. So it's going to be a very interesting game. And here in a little bit, we're definitely going to go into our score predictions and our bold predictions. But Lance, before we do that, how do you think it would be the best way? We talked about Daniel Jones a lot. We talked about getting pressure on him. We kind of glossed over stopping Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
How do the Broncos stop or limit Jonathan Taylor?
Well, I think the big thing here is Jonathan Taylor is such a physical runner. You need to gang tackle. That's obviously first and foremost. You need to bring multiple bodies at him, and you need to stay disciplined up front, especially at the linebacker level. And I'm looking directly at Alex Singleton here, because there are times where Alex Singleton will get himself outside of the gap that he's supposed to maintain in gap integrity. Justin Cernot also does the same thing. So if you got two guys going in the wrong gaps, well, guess what? Jonathan Taylor, he's also physical enough. He's got enough burst. He can actually make that happen. He can go in and create these explosive runs from the Indianapolis Colts running game. To me, though, I think that the big focus here is going to be DJ Jones against Tanner Bortolini. Tanner Bortolini kind of had his way against Zach Sealer and the other interior defensive lineman for the Miami Dolphins last week. But DJ Jones last week against the Tennessee Titans was absolutely phenomenal stopping the run. He plays with such great technique. He uses that length. That's the big key here. If you can keep this Indianapolis Colts offensive line from running these, they run some cool exotic runs where they'll pull a tackle, they'll switch, bring a wide receiver, they'll run a tight end across the formation and blow up guys. If DJ Jones can keep Tanner Bortolini from moving the pocket, moving the line of scrimmage down the field, which is what he's plenty capable of doing, you can really have some success. If he can wall off in 2-gap against Tanner Bortolini and Quentin Nelson specifically, that double team there, if he can hold up in that gap, that left side B gap on the Colts or left side A gap on the Colts offensive line, and allow these linebackers to flow, and then gang tackle and bring down Brandon Jones, who loves to hit. You bring down Talanoa Hufanga, who we talked about earlier, as a force in the running game. That's how you win this battle up front. It's DJ Jones is the key to the defensive line really winning in the running game.
Yeah, and we have Quentin Carson coming in. Hey, guys, who gets more touches against the Colts, Dobbins or Harvey?
I hope it's Harvey.
It should be Harvey.
It absolutely should be Harvey.
I did a film piece on J.K. Dobbins, and it is very clear that he just doesn't have the burst anymore. He's very slow, and holes are closing. There were some big holes for him against the Titans that closed just because of how long it takes him to get to the line. He still can be used. He still can be somewhat effective, somewhat efficient. Last year, that is despite last year being one of the most inefficient running backs in the NFL. There are still ways you can use him. And the outside stuff that the Denver tried a couple times with him last week, just throw that out the window. You need J.K. Dobbins going north and south, inside zone, power, that stuff.
Yep.
That's what you want to be doing with Dobbins. It should be Harvey who gets more touches for this because he definitely brings that more potential for an explosive element to the offense. But it probably, by the end of the game, it probably will be Dobbins just because Dobbins does bring a little bit more in the passing game. And I got to say, even though it was for a negative a loss of a yard, Harvey's catch against the Titans was a great one-handed. He just reaches out and plucks that ball right out of the air one-handed.
Yep.
It just happened to be for a yard loss, which stinks. And I think Nix was trying to throw it away, and Harvey didn't realize that.
Well, you can see that. You can actually
catch, but it's a bad play.
You can see that on the tape when you go back and watch it. Bo Nix is like, let that go through. Like, I'm trying to throw that away. Don't catch that football. You just put us behind the line. You just had a 1-yard loss. I wasn't actually throwing it to you. I was throwing it in your direction. Bo had a couple of interesting decisions that I.
Interesting is an interesting way of saying bad decisions.
Yeah, the pick that he threw to Cortland Sutton, actually the one that he threw to Troy Franklin was even worse of a decision. But I'm not going to say decisions in terms of what he did with the football, just decisions on the field where he kind of lit up some players. He lit up Lucas Kroll on that one where Lucas Kroll definitely should have sat down in the zone and Bo Nix tried to throw it there. And you can watch it, go back and watch the full length game tape, the full length broadcast. You can see Bo Nix saying, sit down, sit down, sit down.
Yeah,
sit
there. Sit
in that. Like, I'm throwing it. It was like 4 or 5 different times where Bo Nix actually was vocal in terms of, I don't want to call it leadership, but frustration. It almost seemed like frustration because he was pressing so hard against the Titans. And it wasn't what we saw last year. And I'm not going to say it's concerning. If I had to say like 1 to 10 level of concern, 2 or 3, like really not a big concern, but it's something you didn't see last year when things were going wrong. Bo wasn't really demonstrative in his like helping be the coach on the field, helping be that quarterback to line up his guys and get them in the right situation. That was a antenna up, wiggle around a little bit kind of thing that you need to kind of pay attention to. Hopefully that dials down as this offense starts to pick up, and hopefully it's this week.
So, real quick, we have William Catalano saying Dobbins because of blocking. I'm assuming he means Dobbins' ability to block. Because the blocking up front, that better benefits Harvey, actually. And then we have BK saying RJ needs to prove he can constantly pass pro before he gets more snaps. Do you know how many times, anybody, without looking up, do you know how many times a running back for Denver was kept in to block last week?
Oh, I know.
How many?
4.
5 times.
5. Okay, so I had 3
times.
from Dobbins and one from Tyler Bidet, which was a tremendous pass pro rep, by the way.
Yeah, Bidet had 1, Dobbins had 3, and Harvey had 1, and Harvey had a really good block. So, all combined, you're talking about 5 snaps out of 72, I think is what it was. I can't remember the exact total snap count off. I am so tired of people bringing up and spreading and saying that pass blocking should determine your running back order. No, it doesn't, because you should be focusing on your run downs earlier, and it does change the math a little bit, but not to a point of where it is a thing of we're going to run this guy and he's going to get 40 snaps when he's doing nothing in the run game because of blocking when we're only snapping 5 times. And BK, one block is a small sample size. I am just saying that it was 5 times total from all the running backs, and his one was a good one.
Yeah.
Good question. I am not saying that that blocking isn't why Dobbins is getting more snaps. I'm saying it shouldn't be. And Javonte Williams is the prime example of that. Javonte Williams was a bottom 3 running back in the NFL last year, and he got the most snaps because of blocking, and it hurt the Broncos offense. And one of the big things that the Broncos have is they have the infrastructure in place, or at least last year they did. And we saw that when Tyler Bidet or Jaleel McLaughlin or even Audric Estime to an extent ran the ball, they had a significantly higher success rate than Javonte Williams. But they weren't seeing the field enough because Javonte Williams was a blocker. They allowed the blocking aspect to dictate what they were doing on obvious running downs, and it hurt the offense. That is my point. So Javonte Williams bringing him up with why he got more snaps is exactly proving why my point as to why that shouldn't be the case.
Let's get back to this Tennessee Titans game really fast and the frustrations with the running back usage, because we're talking, is it J.K. Dobbins that gets more touches? Is it R.J. Harvey that gets more touches? Why the hell are you targeting Tyler Bidet in the passing game 6 times in the first half? Let's talk about that for a second.
Too.
Yeah.
Almost all of them were screens.
Oh, and the one that he dropped, the screen that he dropped was so well executed up front. He had 4 blockers. He had Sutton, Ingram, Miners, and I think it was Luke Wattenberg that were out in front on 3 defenders. It was wide open. It would have went for a 45-yard touchdown, and Tyler Bidet dropped it. And then they threw the ball to him 3 more times after that. Why? What are you doing? See, this is, I went back, go back, guys, watch, go back to my, I did the stock watch this week. Stock up, stock down. Sean Payton, first loser, because his play calling, decision-making, personnel usage, the disaster that was the late first half timeout, or not timeout, time usage where you don't kick the ball out of the end zone after you score a touchdown because your defense saves you from a muffed punt, and you get, oh, good Lord. Man, that was so. Did I freeze?
Everything good?
I think we're good.
All right. I just had things freak out on me. I mean, it was switching the screens on our end, and it was weirding out on our end, guys. Hope everything was good on yours. And William Catalano saying, I agree, Eric, but the coaches will say that is why Dobbins gets more. I know. And I know that Dobbins, that's why I'm saying that Dobbins likely gets more touches and Dobbins will get more snaps. I'm just tired of that being the case because it shouldn't be. And when you look at some of these, how do I put it? These teams that are more effective and more efficient with the running game, they're not doing that. It's because they care about the efficiency in the running game. And I'm not saying that blocking from the running back position doesn't matter. It definitely does. But you're talking about something on third down. In the NFL last year, it was less than 5% that running backs were kept in to block on first and second down in the whole of the NFL. I finally found it for the Broncos, and for the Broncos, it was less than 3% of their first and second down plays, passing plays specifically. Pass blocking shouldn't be a factor when it comes to first and second down. And if you want RJ Harvey to improve as a pass blocker, you got to expose him to it at some point.
Yep.
Like
you're absolutely right.
You have to. That's just the way it is.
And you have to expose him in the passing game too. You have to utilize him as an actual receiver in the passing game too. Yeah.
All right. Now, I see a couple comments about Jaleel McLaughlin. Jaleel McLaughlin, from what it sounded like with Sean Payton talking about it and Lombardi talking about it, they'll rotate the running back 3 depending on matchups. And it seems like Tyler Bidet is going to get the call up this week a little bit just because of some of the exotic blitzes that they can throw on third down from the Colts. And then Jaleel McLaughlin as well. So I think that they're going to be rotating those guys depending on matchups a little bit. And Chase Woolner, did we get a single one? We did. And it was probably the second best pass blocking rep that we got from all the running backs. But again, only 5 total running back pass blocks, 3 for Dobbins, 1 for Bidet, and 1 for Harvey. Small sample size for all of them, really. I mean,
Well, and
So,
again,
but
you're talking about what, the 8% of snaps across all of the NFL last
less than
season?
5%.
Yeah,
Less than 5% on first and second down. Less than 3% for the Broncos specifically on passing plays on first and second down. And it's again less than 5% of passing plays on first and second down combined. Anyways, before we get out of here, we're going to get some bold predictions. You guys can get yours rocking. They will be popping up on the screen here. Lance, I'm going to pass it off to you. What is your one big? We don't have time for this because conversation actually flew by. Last week it seemed drag, and we ran through so much. But only one big bold prediction. You can do offense or defense. I'll go opposite of you.
I'm going to go bold prediction on the defensive side of the football, and they're going to turn Daniel Jones over 4 times. Because Daniel Jones is one of the most turnover-worthy quarterbacks in the NFL. Whether it's fumbling the football or throwing the football to the wrong team, that dude knows how to turn the football over, and especially in the pocket, because he has terrible pocket presence. And with the way that this Broncos team brings pressure up front, especially up the middle when they do sugar up the A-gaps, they're going to get Daniel Jones to turn the football over at least 4 times. And that's my big, bold prediction from this Broncos defense.
I can't remember. I do bold predictions every single week. I do 5 of them: 2 on offense, 2 on defense, 1 for special teams or team overall. You guys can check them out on milehighhuddle.com. I can't remember exactly. I think I have 3 total turnovers, 2 interceptions, one of them being to Pechistan, and the other one being, I believe, Brandon Jones, and then a fumble, and then a strip sack being recovered. So I have 3 of them and 6 sacks on Daniel Jones.
Yep.
My offensive bold prediction is that the Broncos rush for over 200 yards, and one of the running backs goes for over 100.
Yeah.
That they really look at getting the run game going in this game against a really bad rushing defense. And even if I didn't know the analytics with how bad the rushing defense was, when you turn on the tape and you watch Miami's 13 runs, I think it was 14 runs against them, they were awful. They were out of place. They looked like they were lost. And it's definitely a sign of them still trying to figure out the rushing defense and the different language and stuff like that. So that is my bold prediction for the offense. It's 200 total, over 200 total rushing yards from the running back specifically, not including Bo Nix. One of the running backs goes for over 100 yards. Now, before we get out of here,
I want to grab this from Jordan really fast. RJ Harvey gets TD because I want to tie into your prediction. It's going to be RJ Harvey is the one that rushes for over 100 yards because he's going to have a long touchdown run because the Colts pursuit angle from the secondary was horrible against the run. They were bad up front, but the secondary was terrible in their pursuit angles. RJ Harvey has that ability to make a dude miss and then be explosive on the back end. And yeah, let's get a 50-yard touchdown run from RJ Harvey this week.
Yeah. So now score predictions. So guys, get your score predictions in here, Lance. I have to pull mine up because I can never remember my score prediction. So I'm sitting there looking through my messages and everything. What was your score prediction for this game?
So my score prediction came in before I got an actual chance to sit down and watch the tape and get an understanding of what this Colts team was. I want to change it. I think it's going to be 24-16. I think Denver's – so I had it 20-16. I think it's going to be 24-16. And I think that you're going to get that long touchdown run from RJ Harvey. You're going to do Bo Nix touchdown pass. You're probably going to get another Bo Nix touchdown run, a field goal from Will Lutz. And the Colts offense is going to be an absolute dog against this Broncos defense. I think that they're not going to move the football. We saw this Broncos defense last week hold the Tennessee Titans offense to -2 total yards in the second half. And also they held them to 133 total yards as an offense in general and forced 131 yards in total penalties. They literally netted 0 yards all game. Denver's defense against this Colts offense is going to be absolutely spectacular. Denver wins 24-10.
And String Guy, that's the beauty of bold predictions. I don't see Bo Nix. I don't see 300+ passing yards, and I saw that was your bold prediction earlier. It's the beauty of bold predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Go bold or go home. Like, that's how it is. This is a really bad rushing defense. Sean Payton's been very adamant about getting the run game going. I think it just adds up for it to happen. But all bold predictions are all score predictions. They're just guesses in the end of things.
Yeah.
My score prediction is Denver 27, Indianapolis 16. I do think that they get a couple of, broken plays or take advantage of a couple broken plays or a couple miscues or something like that with the defense. They're able to get a touchdown and then are held to field goals for the rest of the game. And then the Broncos, obviously, I think with the 3 turnovers, that keeps them in range. They're able to do well with it and have some success offensively for a change, stemmed by the running game, with Bo Nix being reined in just a little bit after the showing that he had against the Titans.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. One last thing before we close the show out. I know we got about 5 minutes here, actually more about 2 minutes before Eric has to do the reads and everything. One player we didn't talk about nearly enough that scares me, one X factor. Can you give me an X factor really fast? One X factor for me for the Indianapolis Colts is Kenny Moore, their nickel cornerback safety kind of hybrid player. That dude is absolutely spectacular. He's great in coverage. He's great against the run. He's tremendous as a blitzer. He had an unblocked, it was unblocked, sure, but where it was a sack against Tua Tagovailoa, where he was lined up as a nickel linebacker, moved to the line of scrimmage, and then came off the corner as a cat blitz in a 5-man pressure. That dude and his ball skills, everything, scares the hell out of me with what this Broncos offense is wanting to try to do. That's the X factor that could really change this game for the Broncos and maybe make the Colts win this game.
Yeah, my one X factor would be also in the secondary. Kenny Moore's a good one. That probably would be who I'd go to if you didn't take it first. I would probably go with Cameron Bynum or Nick Cross.
Yeah. Ball
just because of what they do in coverage, and and it is both are really good players. And again, Broncos, they really wanted Cam Bynum. He got priced out of their range. They pivoted to Hufanga, and then Nick Cross was a guy that they had some interest in the draft. I don't know how much interest there was, obviously, but they had some interest there. Stella coming in saying that RJ Harvey runs for a lot of yards. I'm not gonna try to do the thing with math. I'm all mathed out doing homeschooling with the daughter, teaching her multiplication. I am beyond mathed out, and math is normally my thing. And then I can read 366,000 passing yards from Bo Nix. Broncos win. All for it.
Let's
go. Definitely bold.
That's Madden stuff right there.
We appreciate coming in here with that and everything. Definitely brought a smile to our face. But that is going to have to do it for us, of course. But before we get out of here, there are some final things that we got to run through. And starting with, gotta find it. All right, you guys can become a member, join the growing membership over on YouTube. Hold on, things aren't working right. Oh no. Let's see if that works. There we go. Oh, it's on the bottom. That's not the one I want. Where's the one that I want? Lance, where is it?
I don't know. I'm not playing with the banner. You're the one doing it.
Become a member on MHH YouTube. You guys, we have a lot of specialty content that's coming out on there. And some that's already going. We have Kelberman Korner. We have the Broncos Book Club. We have other stuff that are coming in that are exclusive to members. So if you're on Facebook, we really appreciate you. We appreciate the community that we built up on Facebook. But YouTube is just another way that you guys can help and support us by becoming a membership, and also potentially being lucky enough to get gifted a membership over on YouTube as well, where you guys can get access and get kind of a trial run to it. But of course, on top of that, one thing you guys can do to help us out is subscribe, like, and share. As you see scrolling across your ticker, those are three things that can help us fight the algorithms that are ever changing and ever being frustrating, especially on Facebook. With how they're changing, you guys can also go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts either after the show's over right now, or if you're listening after the fact, and leave it 5-star reviews for a chance to win some gear, not swag. I hate saying swag. Every single month. You can follow us on Instagram at MileHighHuddle with an underscore between Mile and High and Huddle. You guys can also go check out MHHmerch.com to get your gear on, not swag. Again, I hate saying swag. You guys can get hats like the ones we are wearing, hats like the Broncos for breakfast, shirts like the Dove Valley Divers Lance is wearing, mugs, other shirts, other hats, all sorts of stuff over there, especially as we are slowly or actually rapidly approaching the holiday season. They make great gifts as well for your Bronco fans and fans of Mile High Huddle. As well, you guys can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/MileHighHuddlePod, facebook.com/MileHighHuddle. And there's another one whose link I can never remember. I just got to get around to writing it down and putting it somewhere. But that's where you guys can get access to our written content and the amazing Facebook community that we have built up over the years. And if you guys are on Twitter or X, whatever it is you want to call it, you can follow us on Twitter or X or whatever at Mile High Huddle, at the MHH Pod, at DVDD_pod, as well as myself at Erick Trickel and Lance at Lance S_MHH. We appreciate you guys, and we are one of the many Mile High Huddle podcasts that come to you every single night and 2 times during the morning. We appreciate you all. We appreciate every single one of you. Those of you who come in. And speaking of giftings, memberships, Michael Ronquillo coming in with $5 gifted memberships here. Michael, we appreciate that so much. Anybody who is listening in and got gifted a membership, please say thank you to Michael and all that. And hope you guys enjoyed the content. Like, as I said, it's kind of a trial run for you guys. You guys get to get access to the exclusive content that we have. And if you like it, you guys can, become a membership yourselves. And if you don't like it, you guys can still become a membership for yourselves, because this is an awesome community that we've built up over the years. But before we get out of here, Lance, any final words?
No, just excited that football's back, obviously. Excited that the Broncos are 1-0. Excited for this game this week. Just want to say we appreciate and love every single one of you guys for joining us every single Friday night. It's a great way to get away from the real world, which it's been kind of hectic over the last, I'm not going to get into anything, but hectic over the last handful of weeks anyways. So we just love and appreciate that you guys are here. Give a brief respite from the rest of the real world. You all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, go Broncos.
Yeah, it's always great to wear an hour every single week, every single night. Twice in the morning, we can just take an escape of everything and just talk Broncos football. And even though we don't always agree with what is going to happen, with whether it be passing yards of Bo Nix, string guy, or rushing yards, string guy, or player evaluations, or what's best, or what the Broncos should do, we are an awesome community that we've built up, and we appreciate every single one of you. And
quick shout out to Peter Middleton saying, "Great to see you on here, Lance. It's great to see you back in the chat, Peter. You've been one of the biggest supporters of DVDD for the last 5 years. So thank you for joining in."
So we appreciate you all. We cannot undersell how much we appreciate you guys. We especially appreciate you. We appreciate it again. Anybody who comes in and chats, anybody who comes in and gives a comment or asks a question, we especially appreciate Michael Ronquillo coming in with a $5 super chat, adding 5 gifted Mile High memberships, being a member himself for over a month, and Cam to come in with a $10 super chat. We appreciate you guys so much. But that is going to have to do it for us. Before we get out of here, it is the weekend. Make sure you guys stay safe. Don't drink and drive. And as my good friend Nick always says, make sure you guys choose kindness and compassion. Right? It's not hard.
Really not.
Have a great weekend. Have a great night. And as always, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.